Welcome to Heaven and Health podcast. I'm your host, Angel Polido. Today we are going to have an insight on land laws and regulations with one of the counsels, Mr. Comrade Mauni. He will tell us what land laws and regulations are, and he's also going to give us an insight on land disputes. So be there and be with us along the way. Welcome, counsel.
Thank you so much.
Basically, looking on today's topic, we're going to focus on the land laws, and we're also going to see the land use and zoning and government regulation and takings. What do we mean by land laws?
Basically, land laws, these are, regulations which government has put in place through Parliament to regulate how land should be transferred from one person to another, and also to see to it that how should land be utilized. Yes.
So when we say that land ownership, what does this actually means as well?
Land ownership basically means categories on how a person can own land. Because when you talk of land laws, basically land law in Malawi categorizes land into three aspects. You may have private land, you have public land, and you also have customary land. So when a person says, this land is mine, then that implies that that person is owning that land privately. It is his or her land. Okay. If somebody says this land is ours, it might mean to say maybe that land is customary land, because basically customary land is land which is communally owned, or land which is owned maybe by a family. You understand?
Yeah.
Because if somebody says this land is mine, it means that land is owned by that person exclusively to other people. But if land is owned by a family, that means that particular land is owned by a group of people. Whereas if you say this is public land, it means that land basically is owned by the government, but for the interest of the whole people in that particular country. Yes.
Mind sharing us some of the land laws that are in the constitutions or in the statutes?
Come again?
Would you share some of the laws that are found in the constitution, the land laws?
Okay. To begin with, I should state that Section 28 of the Constitution, which gives an individual the right to property, and land is a form of property. So the Constitution just gives the right of a person to own property, which includes land, and that section also says that land or property should not be arbitrarily taken away from a person. For example, if you own a particular land and other people or an individual or even the government cannot just come to grab that property from you arbitrarily.
Yeah.
Okay? If the government wants to take away land from you, then you have to be compensated. There are situations where government can take land from an individual. Maybe the government wants to construct a road on somebody's land. Government can do that. But if government does that, then that person from whom that land has been taken away from, that person should be compensated. So basically, this is the only law which is found in the Constitution in relation to land. But apart from the Constitution, we have also other laws which govern how land should be used and how land should be transferred. For example, we have the Land Act, which was, at first it was introduced in 1968, but in the year 2016, government through Parliament enacted another land law which replaced the 1968 land law. So we have now the 2016 Land Act, and that Land Act defines what land is, and it also categorizes land into 3 different categories of land, as I said earlier on. If you remember, I did say that land is categorized into private land,
customary land,
and private land. But you should also bear in mind to say that in the past we didn't have what are known as customary estates. Okay, so the Land Act 2016 has now introduced the customary estates. So basically, customary estates refers to land which was initially customary land, and then that customary land, somebody has registered that customary land into private land. So like in the 2016 Land Act has introduced customary estate. For instance, if somebody had a particular family had customary land, and normally customary land, it was not registered. And because customary land was not registered, a person could not use that land as security to get loan. Okay, but then if you register that customary land to be private land, then that land is now known as a customary estate, or you may call it private land. I hope you understand.
Yeah.
So it's like now the 2016 Land Act is now transforming the customary land which we had in the past into private land, because government saw it that people were unable to get security. Maybe people want to get a loan from a bank. They couldn't use customary land
just because it wasn't registered.
Just because it was not registered. But if now you have a customary land which has been registered and it has now been transformed into private land, but it's now called customary estates. So if somebody has a customary estate, he or she can use that land to get loans from the bank. So basically, we have customary land or customary estates, private land, and public land. And apart from the Land Act, we also have the Registered Land Act. Now, the Registered Land Act regulates the registration of land. For instance, the Registered Land Act introduces the Registrar General, the Registrar General's office, where people go to register their land. And the Land Act also it gives several powers to different people. For instance, it gives powers to banks in situations whereby a person has obtained a loan from a bank, and then that person has given his land to the bank as security. Now, in circumstances where somebody has obtained a loan from the bank using his land as security, and then that person has defaulted to pay that loan, then that bank is given powers of sale, whereby the bank will now have the power of selling the land. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, you also talked about like the government may sometimes take away the land just because they simply want to build it. They want to construct maybe a road or something, and the person has to be compensated. Yes. What if the government does not compensate the person? Does he or she have the power to challenge the government?
For sure. Then that person can seek remedies from the court to say, the government has taken my land, and then there is no compensation. Then the court will assist that particular individual.
But this is the government. What if it still does not compensate the person?
If the government still doesn't compensate the person,
just because it has the powers and it has the rights, of course it's in the wrong way, but the person is pleading for compensation and the government is not compensating the person, or it has just compensated a little bit and said that we'll finish it up later, and then maybe the government changes from an example, maybe the person assuming that it was back in the days when UDF was ruling, and the government has took the place. Has taken away the place for this person, and then it has changed from UDF to DBB, and this person was supposed to be compensated back then, and maybe the president in that year said that we don't know this, or maybe the government say that we don't know this, and this was supposed to be resolved in the years back. And so what do you think this person can do?
Okay. This now brings to the concept of how the court enforces its orders, or in short, enforcements of court orders. Okay. There is a mechanism where the court enforces its orders. For example, if I owe you money, and then I'm not giving you that money, and then you have sought the intervention of the court, and the court will investigate to find out if at all I owe you money. If the court finds that it's true that I owe you money and then I'm not giving you back, then the court will say, maybe I have other properties. Then the court will issue seizure, what we call seizure orders. Seizure orders are orders whereby a person is directed to take my properties and being sold, so that the money, the proceeds from that sale will be given to you. So I'm relating this to a situation whereby government has taken away land from somebody, and then that person has not been compensated. If the case is before the court will have to find out to say, was this person not compensated? If the court finds that yes, the person was not compensated, and the court knows government has got several properties, then the government may issue an order that one of the properties of government have to be seized and sold, and after being sold, then the proceeds from that sale will be given
to the person. Okay, you also
that answers your question.
Yeah, and you also talked about like registration of land. Would you share some of the procedures of how a person can register his or her land?
The procedures. Basically, I just know one procedure. This procedure has to do with that particular person informing people at the land registry of his or her intention of registering that land. Then officials from land registry have to go to that land to investigate if at all the land belongs to that particular individual. Because there are instances whereby a person would want to register land which is not his. But then if somebody wants to register a particular land, that person has to go to the land registry, and people from land registry, they have to go with the owner of that land to find out if at all that land really belongs to that person, and then they have to find out the demarcations, the boundaries of that land. After doing that, if at all the land officials from the land registry are certain to say yes, this land belongs to this particular individual, and then they have no any other choice but to give what is called title deed. So they have to write in the books at the Ministry of Land, at the land registry rather, to say this land belongs to this particular individual, and that individual has to be given a title deed, which has like a number to
more like a will
to that land. Not necessarily a will, but it's just like a book where it is stated that land in that particular area belongs to maybe Ismail. Land in ordinary plot number 10 belongs to Comrade Mauni. Plot number 11 belongs to Angel Boriko. Something like that.
Okay, now we're getting in the international laws. Do you think the international laws affect our local laws?
The international laws?
Yeah, affecting our local laws, like the Malawian laws.
Yes, they do affect, because the Malawian constitution provides that land laws, they have to be inconsistent with international laws. And the constitution provides that if a particular international law is inconsistent with the Malawian constitution, then that international law is invalid. It can't apply in Malawian context. So international land laws, they are only applicable in Malawi if at all they are consistent with the Malawian constitution. For instance, if I remember, I said there is section 28.
Yeah.
Now, section 28 of the Malawian constitution, it does provide that land or property in general should not be arbitrarily taken away from an individual. So if it happens that maybe in Zambia, land can be taken away from a person arbitrarily, then that law will not be applicable in Malawi. Why? Because it is inconsistent with our constitution.
So what are the implications of foreign investment in land?
Implications of foreign investment in land? I may say, maybe in a nutshell, I may say because foreigners may come and invest in
Malawi.
At the same time, some Malawians can invest abroad, and if it happens that maybe a certain Malawian has invested abroad, and that person perhaps owes money, or that person owes properties to foreigners, then those foreigners can seek the court to intervene, and there can be situations whereby property in Malawi or land in Malawi can be sold so that people abroad realize their monies or their property.
Yeah.
So in that way, it means property in Malawi or land in Malawi can be owned by foreigners. Yes.
So in that case, how can one navigate cross-border land disputes?
Cross-border disputes. When it comes to cross-border disputes, because this relates to interactions between people from two or more countries. Now, when two or more people are in a particular relation, they form what is known as a contract. And in any contract, there are clauses which describes how conflicts will be resolved. So, for example, maybe myself, maybe I'm in relation to somebody in Zambia. We may have a contract, and in that contract, we may have a clause to say if we have conflicts, which court is going to solve that particular land conflict. So we may choose to say maybe the Zambian court will come in to solve if at all we avoided a disagreement, or we may say
the Malawian court will
maybe
come in.
the Malawian court will come in, or we may choose the international court. We have the international court of justice. So perhaps we may refer that conflict between two particular individuals to be resolved by an international court. Yes. So conflicts relating to land or property in general, they may be resolved by a municipal court. A municipal court is like a court which resolves conflicts within a particular country, or an international court to come to help resolve a conflict which is of international nature. Yes.
Okay, looking at the land laws and regulations, about the international laws, do you think that someone can lose his or her laws by just abandoning the land? Maybe you have the land but you're not using it.
You have the land,
but you're not using it. Maybe you're far away, or maybe you just don't have the money to invest in your land. So can one lose that land?
Yes, you can lose that land.
How?
This takes us to, if you buy land within a city, the city has regulations which describes how land should be used. Land can be used either for residential purpose or commercial purpose. So if the city council has designated a particular land as to be used for commercial purpose, that means people are not supposed to construct houses on that land, because that land has been designated for commercial purposes or business purposes only. And if it happens that maybe somebody is now building a house on that land, then that person is susceptible to his land being taken away by the city council or the government in general. Or sometimes the city council can say this land should, people can build houses, but maybe the houses should not be upstairs.
Yeah, they should be like separate houses.
If somebody tries to build a house which is upstairs on that land, then
the city also takes away the land.
Yes. And there are also instances where the city council will sell land, and then they will say, if somebody has bought that land, maybe 2 years should not pass without that land being developed. Okay, so if somebody has bought that land from the city council, and then maybe that land is just lying idle, no development is taking place, then that person is likely to lose that particular land.
So it's the council that that basically decides that this land should be used for commercial and this land should be used for resident.
Exactly.
So, okay, if the person has bought the land for commercial purpose and in return he or she has sat down and thought of maybe changing the land from commercial to residential. So after going back to the council and giving them the information, like, okay, giving them the report that I want to change this land from commercial to resident, is that, do they allow or what do they do?
Yeah, I think there should be, I believe there should be reasons as to why the council designs to say this land should only be used for this purpose only.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
For instance, the city council can make a regulation to say land which is close to the hospital,
yeah,
should not be used for residential purposes. Perhaps it's done in the interest of protecting maybe the sick.
Yeah.
So in that circumstance, I don't think somebody can come and say no.
I'll build my house here, I'll do this.
No. I think it may not be a reasonable thing to do. So I believe when the city council is designing to say this land should only be used for this. At least maybe if you have given that freedom to say maybe this land can be used for both commercial or residential, it means there are valid reasons. Valid reasons. But if the city council says this land should be used for this, it means there is a valid reasons as to why the city council of the government is saying that.
All right, thank you very much for coming. And if there is anything you can conclude.
Let me just finish by saying you also highlighted circumstances where a person can lose his or her land. I think I forgot to mention one thing, the issue of adverse possession, whereby if you have land and then you are not utilizing that land, and then 12 years have passed, and then somebody has come on that land and has stayed on that land for a period of 12 years without any interruption, then that person
claims the land to be his.
Claim that land. In fact, he can go to the land registry and register it.
Yeah.
That process is known as acquiring title to land through adverse possession. But then there is a law, there's section 134, which says that land can be acquired by adverse possession, but that land should be private land. It can't be customary land, and it can't be public land. So you can acquire land by adverse possession, but that land shouldn't be public land and it shouldn't be customary land. But if it is private land, then you can acquire that land if you have stayed on that particular land for a period of 12 years without any interruption. I wanted to finish on that note.
Yeah. Is there anything else to add? in a nutshell for everything that we have discussed.
Another important thing is just to highlight, if you remember, I said the Land Act categorizes land into three. It categorizes land as public land, private land, and
customary land.
Yes, and I said the 2016 Land Act is now transforming the customary land into private land. And once a person has registered a customary land into private land, then that land is known as customary estate. So if you have registered maybe at a family level, you have a particular land and you have registered that land, then that land will no longer be called customary land. It will be called a customary estate, and you are free to obtain loan from the bank using that land. So it's like you have access to land through security. You are using your land as security to obtain loans from the bank. While in the past, if you have customary land at a family level, you have not registered it.
You couldn't use it for security purposes.
You can't use it as security to obtain loans from the bank. So this is kind of, we say it's now advantageous to people.
Yes. This is how Comrade Mauni, one of the counsels in Malawi, has given us an insight on land laws and regulations. He also told us the dangers of purchasing land outside the country. We also talked about the city council, how they distribute the land. It's either for commercial purposes or for residential purpose. Thank you very much for listening.